Hi guys, welcome back to Kit Car Direct and MK Sportscars for another how-to with Sean. And what we're going to be talking about today, well, it's going to be our billet front upright 265 deal disc and a billet hub with our wing save for our Cup and Sport-200 cars. And now I'm going to get into and show you how to assemble one. First off guys, you want to make sure all the hardware is nice and neatly laid out. I've got a bench here, give me plenty of space to work with, making sure that we've got all the correct bolts here. These are M8s, M10s, M12s up to M14s. Washers, the nuts, the key lock washers and other washers that's needed for it. Then we move on to two axles. Now these are handed, it's pretty easy to opposite as well. This is a left-handed thread which goes on the passenger side or near side in the UK, and the right-handed thread one which has got the blue nylock goes on the driver's side. Got two billet front uprights, this orientation. Then the sit, this is the top, you can tell by this angled seat here, and this is the bottom. These will go on. Then we have two steering arms and we have two caliper brackets. Now you're going to need some tools to do this job. Unfortunately there's really nothing really, I suppose, that you shouldn't have in your basic toolbox, which is a set of Allen keys. You can do it with a wrench if you want to, but a set of Allen keys will do it. I've got a couple of items here that will help me speed up the process, and some medium to low strength thread lock. That's pretty much all you need to assemble the billet front upright. For one little thing, nice cup of tea while you're making it, makes all the difference. Right, let's get started. So first of all, first job is we're just going to assemble one item first here, so I'm going to show you on one. So we're going to do one side. Let's do the near side, offside one actually, which is this axle. You can tell by the nylock, and it screws on the conventional way with a right-handed thread nut. Now this axle, you've got the top here and the bottom, and this axle has got to fit into this section here. Now it can be a tight fit sometimes, so what we recommend if you want to is put this section on a radiator just to warm it up, and maybe this one in the fridge or the freezer. That also helps because it is a very interference tight fit. Sometimes it helps to get it in, and that will help slot it in, but if not, failing that, it's just a slight tap with a hammer on here with the nut on, because it's just a gentle job, and that is in and ready. But as I said, if it's a very tight fit, this is a lot cooler today in here, so it's not so bad, but this sometimes you just heat it up on a radiator and it slots in really smooth and you bolt it on. So once that's assembled, which is nice fit, we have these here. They're not rounded, they are square and hexagonal, so that basically this will not rotate when the wheel rotates around. If the nut was to come loose in slightly in any way, shape or form, because it's an interference fit plus that axle, this axle cannot rotate on the bearing. So that's a nice little design feature. And then you're going to take one of these washers. It's the larger washer, and this is going to sit in there. Quite simply, that's your spacer, a direct flush fit. And then we're going to take the very short bolt, which is this one, and we're going to tighten that bolt into the centre. Now I'm going to assemble this using thread lock, just because it's a bit more safety and security. A very small amount required, just to slot it on the end there, just to help it stick in place and making sure it don't come undone. So we'll tighten that up. We get our Torx piece for this one. I'm going to do this with a Torx bit on this one, and I'm just going to tighten that up. Now if you've got a vise or something, it's probably a bit easier, but if not, it's just a quick tighten up. No real torque setting, you can feel it's nice and tight in there. So now the axle is fitted. Right, next job, we're going to install the brake caliper bracket. This is going to assemble here, and what's required for that is two M10 by 40 cap heads, and they're going to slot into here. These are recessed, so it will fit in quite nicely, and again these will line up and slot on. And what we will do though, just as a little precaution, again safety being precautions, it's a very small amount of, we've got medium thread lock on this today. I'm going to torque them down, speed up the process. and we'll torque those up nice and tight, like so. So now you've got your brake caliper bracket fitted, you've got your axle fitted. We'll leave the nut on there for the moment, and this is kind of how you're starting to assemble the front upright. Next job will be steering arm. Now the steering arm, to assemble this, is quite simply, and again, 2 more bolts. Okay, so now you need to choose the correct steering arm for your orientation. Now if this is on this side of the vehicle, you need the arm to be sitting in here, like so. So it's facing this direction, and with this spacer pointing downwards and sitting this orientation. I'm going to hold that there for a second so you can see that. Now when you're assembling this, you need 2 M10 by 55s and 2 M10 washers, and these will bolt in like so. Now there's a couple of options here. You can leave these in loose at this moment in time, because if you're fitting this bottom bolt on, you can then remove it when you've fitted it to the vehicle, because you're going to have your bottom joint come through and you need the nut on. So you can leave these loose. And also, if you've gone with our wing stay setup, like so, which is our pre-bent used on the Sport and Cup 200 cars, or any Ford base for this particular upright, with a 13-inch wheel, then what this happens is, and I'm going to move this out of the way for a second to give us a bit of space. So this stays in the same location, but now on this is already pre-bent and laser cut, and you have 2 holes here, here and here, which fit on. You've got your bracketry now, which will slot in place like so. And then I'm not going to thread lock these up, because I will remove this to put this bottom ball joint on, but I'm going to show you so that this assembles correctly for you, like so. And I'm going to do them up tightish just to get the assembly going. Now also on the top here, once you've assembled your front wing stay on this particular one I'm tight now, this is designed so that your 14mm, this is an M14 by, let me get my tape measure up for you, 70mm, will slot in here and hold that in place. And obviously between here and here is normally the rose joint for your top wishbone, and that slots in like so. So we would just give these a light nip up. So I'm not going to torque these at this moment in time. I will torque those once it's fully assembled on the vehicle, because we're going to be putting the bottom ball joint in. So there you have, at the moment, your fully assembled billet front upright, axle, brake bracket and wing stay and steering arm. Right, now this is fully assembled, I'm going to set that to one side, and I'm going to focus now on the bearing carrier hub and brake disc. That's the next part of the assembly that we're going to do. Right, so guys, this is our 265mm by 10mm cross-drilled and grooved disc. We do them in various options as well. We do them in plain, or we do them with just the grooved on them only as well. So that's going to fit on. Now when these come out of the packet, make sure you degrease them either now or later on. If you're still on your build, then leave them, because they've like this protective film on them, and then degrease them afterwards. Otherwise any moisture, it will start to look corroded. Now we have here our hub assembly. Now this one is already been sort of semi-assembled anyway before, which has then the bearing is already inside it. Normally these come with the bearings already fitted in. There's a tapered bearing in here with a seal, and below here also there is a taper bearing in here with a seal. And I'm just going to pop that out with some tissue, and we'll pop that over here for a second. Don't need that anyway, so we get rid of this and this. So I'm going to show you here and here. This is the taper bearing with a seal. Make sure you're using a high temperature grease that's in there, and that's going to slot inside. And also when you pressing the studs in, depending on the length of studs and depending on what wheel offsets, if you're running spacers, on our ones we've got 47mm studs. These you can just knock in. They actually, because it's soft alloy, you can tap these in from this side and push them in, or if you've got a press or etc, just press the wheel studs in. And we're going to be basically, I'm going to pull that bearing out, drop it over there for a second, clean it off. We're going to be dropping the disc on like so, in this orientation, so you can see hub Then you've got the height for the disc on the bell here in that orientation, and that's going to be bolted on here with 4 of these, which is a M8 by 30mm. So you've got 4 of those. Sorry, M10, beg your pardon gentlemen, ladies. M10 by 40 cap heads. We use a little spring retaining washer on here as well, or you can thread lock these in as well, but if you're going to service them, just again, low strength thread lock or medium strength at the maximum. Don't use high strength, it could cause you some issues down the line. And we'll just quickly whiz those in. Again, I'm not talking these down at this moment in time. Now when you do your final torque on these, make sure you do it in opposites, just to make sure it seats nice and central. Like so. Now this is going to mate with your uprights kit. Yeah. So you can grease the shaft if you want to up there, or you can grease inside the bearing now. This is going to slot on like so. Once that bearing is seated in there, you can feel it nice and easy rotate on the bearing, and then we'll put the top bearing in as well. Slide that down. Nice and easy to assemble, and then we have a couple of washers and nuts that's required here. This has a little tab washer. Hopefully you can see the little tab on there. This sits inside the groove on there, and slide that down into place, and then we're going to get a nylock and hold it in place. At this moment in time I'm not going to put the nylock down, but when you're assembling these, you're going to hold this in position of whatever you're going to be doing. Props, once it's on the vehicle, you can rotate and torque this nut down, so you've still got no play in the bearing from left to right, up or down, and it's still rotating freely. If it's really hard to time, then you've got to back this off slightly because it's a tapered bearing and you can't over torque it. So the play is tighten this until you've just got enough movement, there's no play in the bearing, and you can rotate it nice and easily on the axle. And then the final part will be, you've got a little cover that will pop over the top to keep all the grease in. And again, these are just a light tap down in place. I'm not going to fully tap that home at this moment in time, but that will hold that in place. And there you have your assembled front billet upright, wheel studs, brake caliper bracket, billet upright, steering arm and wing stay. Right, that's it for another how-to guide, guys. If you want more information on this, you can drop us some comments below. We'd happily help you up. If you want to purchase them, they're on our website and available. They are Cortina-based geometry, so they will fit other vehicles. It's the same what the top bottom ball joint that we use on this is used on most. It's a forward bottom ball joint, and everything else will assemble. So if you want to see if it will fit your vehicle, hook us up with a phone call and email. Glad to have a chat with you about it. But thanks again for sharing and watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and see how we are on the next installment with How To with Sean.